Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Supergirl. So in this episode, we have Mon-El's secret coming out because his family has come to Earth. His family coming to Earth kind of reminded me of Man of Steel when the Kryptonians came looking for Clark. They hit all those TV screens in National City being like, hey, the fact of the matter is we're looking for Mon-El, release him. It was a sense, I guess it was almost like, because they basically thought Mon-El was a prisoner because they were able to get his distress beacon, so they thought he was in trouble, so they thought he was being held captive. But the truth comes out. Obviously, Kara is not pleased at all. Like, she is pissed. And, and I agree with what Alex said. You have the right to be pissed because Mon-El lied about so much. Not only about being a prince, because for Kara, there's the principle of the matter of him being a prince. Because it means he lived his entire life following the Daxam lifestyle. The fact is, the whole slave moon trade and stuff like that. You had, but the fact is, Mon-El brought up the fact is like, there were some officials that were not okay with it. I thought he was referencing himself, but maybe he was referencing other people. Because the fact of the matter is, and you can't blame, it does come down to ignorance. The fact is, and he brings it up, he's like, I was a spoiled brat who knew nothing of what was going on, but it's like, being here on Earth with Kara, he learned to kind of see things from a different perspective. I mean, it shows you that he's changed because the fact is, he helped with that whole slave movement. He was never been 100% like, oh, it's okay. It's like, so maybe even on Daxam, he was not okay with it. I mean, because it's like we didn't treat our people with respect. We just treated them like they were property in a sense, I mean, for Mon-El also, because obviously we got the flip side of that story about him, the prince helping him get away. It's like, no, the person that helped him get away was a guard. That guard killed a Kryptonian emissary, mainly because it's like, oh, it's all your fault. It's kind of what Daxamites kind of feel, because the king and queen were constantly like, oh, this is your fault anyway, and this was kind of reflected with that guard too. It's like, this is essentially your fault that we're in this position. Killed him so that Mon-El could get in that ship. That's why he was in particular a Kryptonian ship. But there's all these people, the buildings are on fire, people are hurt, reaching out for help. But the fact of the matter is, you see Mon-El kind of guilty about it. And even Kara's like, do you not feel guilty about it? It's like, yeah, he does. Because he left as a prince, he survived. He survived, and the rest of his people were left there to suffer. And it's like, why do I get to live? I get to live only because I'm a prince. The fact of the matter is, you would look at certain situations, you think with a crown that basically the life is easy, which life for him was easy, but that crown grows heavy, as you go out and, expand your mind and everything. And you even have, Kara having talk with, his mom, and she's basically convinced Mon-El to come back home, because basically they want to fix Daxam, because for them, Daxam is in a position where it can be, they could go back and fix it up because it is habitable now. She's basically thinking the reason why Mon-El's the way he is, trying to be a hero and all that stuff, or wanting to stay here, is all because you got your spell on him. See, because they kind of bring back the prejudice that Mon-El and Kara had that prejudice too, but now you see it in an increased fold, because Mon-El lost that prejudice because he spent time around Kara, he got to know who she was, and fell in love with her too. But for them, it's just kind of no, they look at Kara as just any other Kryptonian. The fact is that she's talking about stuff like integrity. It's like, oh, we know all about Kryptonian integrity, thinking you're better than us, better than our ways. It's like, yeah, everyone has their own ways. Doesn't mean your way is right. And it's not even a sense of hey, Kara will look at it, oh, her trying to be uppity as a Kryptonian. It's like, no, the Daxam way of doing things isn't right. Because even Mon-El's yeah, and with my experience, Kara makes me a better person because she opened my eyes and made me realize just how spoiled and blind I was to everything that was happening around us. I cannot go back and be Prince to Daxam, because I will not have Daxam go back to the way it was. Because even his mom said, no, things will change. He's like, no, it won't. Because he sees the way his parents are. He sees the way they act, the way they treat people, especially Kara. It's you can't even take the time to put your prejudice apart. Looking at Kara like she's the problem. It's not. She's a good thing. And even if things don't necessarily work out for him, he's still going to appreciate everything that, spending time with her has done. It has made him. He's like, I'm going to stay here and be a hero. So it's take me back home. And he's like, now. Which his dad reluctantly lets him go. Now, to me, I immediately look at this, kind of going down and throwing out my thoughts. This isn't over. whether or not it's going to be a situation where maybe Daxam decides that, like, oh, maybe we'll try, kind of do what the Kryptonians did last season, try to take Earth as their own, or maybe it's a situation where they try to take Mon-El by force, make it so that everyone around him distrusts him or stuff like that, make him see the evils of the Kryptonian, as well as that, oh, this place that you consider your home isn't your home. What you need to do is come back with us. Which is something I'd never originally thought about before. I get the feeling by the end of this season, he will go back to Daxam. Just because I was like, because it just seems like Mon-El's story won't allow. I mean, I hope he sticks around, but then again, it's like the whole Miss Martian situation, because she went back to Mars to kind of settle the White Martians thing. So maybe it'll be a situation where Mon-El does the same thing too, but he does pop back when need be. Because Kara did bring up something interesting. She was like, the fact of the matter is you have a second chance. The fact is you thought you were the last of your people are still alive, your parents are alive. Not everyone gets that chance. So basically just accept things as they are and just go back. You are a prince, start acting like one. For Kara, more so than anything, it's like she was betrayed. It's like he lied to her about something so important. Which, Alex brought up, and I truly believe it is the best, it's the, Mon-El's reasoning behind it is the fact is he lied because he felt like he had to, because Mon-El was ashamed of his past. For one, it is also because, like, I feel like at first it probably was because Kara would look at him different. Like, if she found out he was the Prince of Daxam, it's like, oh, your Daxamites have this certain belief and stuff like that. She would hold, like, a little bit of her prejudice would come out because she's like, oh, all of Daxam is like this. And as the prince, obviously you benefited from this lifestyle, in particular, the whole slave trade and everything. So it's like you hold him responsible. It's like you lived that world and you thrived in that environment. So, but once again, it's like for Mon-El, he was ignorant, so he didn't really realize what was going on. Once again, like, who's to say he wasn't the particular official that he brought up, that he was like, no, like, I'm not okay with this. But then again, like, the way he talks about it, it seems like he wasn't the outspoken type to be like against everything, because it's like he lived a privileged life, and it's like, like I said, but the thing that matters is, the important thing to me is he has changed. He's gained a different perspective. But for Kara, I think she wants to look at the situation as like, for one, the fact is you lied to me about it. If you really claimed to love me and everything, you would have told me the truth. And she asked, would you ever told me the truth? And Mon-El said, I don't know. And I think he honestly, if he had the opportunity, he never would have told her the truth. But it's also a sense of like, for Mon-El, it's about, because he became ashamed of his life. That's even more reason why not to say anything, because he was ashamed of who he was and what his people represented it and what they represented. And he didn't want to be that person anymore, especially, when it came to Kara, he wanted to be someone that not only he could be proud of, but someone that Kara could be proud of. And I think the point I was going to make is that she would want Mon-El to do things because it's the right thing to do, not just because it's for the sake of Kara. So obviously things are not well with them. They even go to the far as like she breaks up with him because she can't take the fact that he lied about something so crucial and important. And it's just like Kara's dad, Jeremiah, was not wrong about the fact is that Kara would not appreciate that coming out. And it's like, because I didn't think about the weight of that, because to me I was like, oh, he lied about it, but you can forgive him, right? Especially when you kind of consider the other storyline when it comes to Winn being like, oh, you should forgive people because they have their reasons for lying. But for Kara, she can't get past that, because it's like, you lied to me now, and it's like, so how can I take anything you say as truth? The fact is, who's to say you won't hurt me again? Even if you did it accidentally and you didn't mean to hurt me, you still did. And who's, very, because you also have to, you do forget, just because even if she has, like, this impenetrable skin, like any person, the heart is a very fragile thing, Just because she's superhuman doesn't mean that she has, like, a superhuman heart. Like, anyone's heart can be hurt and broken very easily. But at the same time, it can also be used, a heart can also love so easily too. That's just kind of the beauty of love. And, it comes with the great times and it comes with the bad times. That's just the kind of the sad thing about having a heart, it's a very complicated thing. So I don't know, like, I hope things do work out for them. I mean, he is still staying on Earth, but I do think by the end of the season, he will leave to go back to fix Daxam to make it a better place. So I didn't even think about that until this episode. I was like, all right, he would eventually go back home, won't he? I just get the feeling that's what they're going to write his story to be. I mean, hopefully he does decide to stay on Earth, but I feel like they're going to write it so that he ends up going back to Daxam. I hope not, because it's like, oh, dude, it's like, once again, I bring it up. Why can't my superheroes be in happy good relationships? Why can't anything work out for them? It's like nothing is working out for literally everyone is screwed over in their particular relationships right now. I mean, Oliver's gotten to the point he's slightly okay with his, but like Barry and Iris are in their situation. Now we see Kara and Monel in theirs, and it's like, does it not work out for anybody? Because even the Legends are kind of the Legends. I said the Legends. The Legends are kind of in that same situation. I mean, granted, everyone's I was about to say everyone's kind of kept single for now. I was like, let's not forget about the whole Amara and Nate situation. That's a complicated thing. It's official. Every show has relationship issues, and I can't stand it. I want everybody to be happy. That's what I want. I mean, yes, they're going to be in the long run, but I mean, granted, who knows? Like I said, just with the way things are playing out, and it's just like I want my superheroes to be happy. Especially Kara, dude. It's like she fights so much to have a normal life and then this good life. I knew something was definitely going to go down because I already kind of went to this episode knowing that Monel's truth was going to come out. But especially when that moment they had at the beginning, they're just like being all cute and adorable together, and just like seeing them both like so bright-eyed and vibrant and happy and all smiling. It's just such a beautiful, cute thing. But then it's like, now this happens, and it's just like, you hope they can fix things. It won't be easy, Monel's just going to have to work to get her trust back, after, breaking her heart like that. It's not an easy thing, and it's not meant to be an easy thing. Earning someone's trust back should be a hard thing. It shouldn't be something that just comes easy. Like, because, if it was so easy to get back, it kind of wouldn't add the weight to it. It wouldn't make it so important. At least that's how I look at it. So, also a little quick thing about the Daxams. I liked that little weapon they used on her that basically trapped her in like a water bubble. That was kind of interesting. So it's just kind of the thing that was popping up in my. I do like the fact is it popped and she landed right there before a car came in here. I just thought that was just kind of neat, and it just immediately went back in the air. But nevertheless, going into the other side of this episode, there's that whole situation with Lyra and Winn. I love at the beginning because everyone's like, okay, we got a hands on deck type of situation. Where the hell is Winn? Oh yeah, Winn is off having divine museum sex with Lyra, which I thought was like, wow. Man, everyone, I mean, great. And then he was on top of the world because he's singing and stuff. He's like, yeah, come on, sing it with me now. I was like, Winn, I love it, dude. It's so good and so kinky, the fact that you're going to go have sex. Because Wynn's like, I don't know if we should really be breaking in. It's just like, oh, really? The fact is, we could go in there and, have divine museum sex. He's like, wait, okay. But then it turns out things get a little sour when we find out that Lyra stole a painting from the museum. And it looks like all of it points to Winn because he was the only one in there. Lyra, because her and her people don't show up on camera or photographs. So basically a lot of stuff about her, she lied. Side note, did she have that accent before? It seemed like to me, like after she was revealed, it seemed like she had a different accent. Was that just me? I don't know. Maybe she was just kind of, because it sounded like she had a bit of a British accent later on in the episode. Maybe it's a situation where it's like she kind of prissed up her voice a little bit, like, oh, when, like, I feel like her accent changed like halfway through the episode. It's just something like I know. So I was like, was I just not paying attention to her voice before? Like, I feel like I would have caught that. But nevertheless, her whole situation is she makes it seem like she didn't care about Winn, which, on some level, you can't fake that emotional attachment, those feelings for someone. Especially, that you saw that look on her face when she saw that Winn was like, I don't care about the fact that you're an alien. Like, I care for you. It's like, let's take things slow because I care about you and everything. You saw that look on her face and, so it made her happy. But, it turns out that she was stealing not for herself, but basically there's this whole art situation that she was kind of caught up in. Her brother worked for this very bad guy. He's kind of part of this art dealing trade. Apparently he's one of the guys that was in Fort Ross, but he escaped when it crashed. But basically Lyra's brother was in trouble, and everyone's like, it's like Winn wants to help her get her brother back, but it's like, obviously everyone's like, well, how do you really know you can really trust her? But Wynn's like, yeah, I believe her. I know she's telling the truth. And he helps her escape and everything, but it turns out the whole thing was like a setup. Like he brought a fake map and a fake painting and everything because everyone else was already like there. Like he didn't go all rogue, which I was thinking was, oh man, Winn, don't go on your own. I was obviously the rest of the team is going to be there to find out what you did and back you up. It's like, oh no, he went into this telling them like what was going to go down because it wasn't just about saving Lyra's brother. It was also about taking down a very bad, guy that's been doing a lot of crimes and stuff too. So I did like the fact is that when Jimmy as Guardian came and attacked him and he was like hit him hard, dude stood up, was still standing like it was nothing. He's like, okay, usually that hurts guys a lot in terms of Lyra and Win and it's like run, and then him and the dude kind of fought a little bit. Like Jimmy kind of got his ass handed to him, but luckily the rest of the DEO showed up. Kind of an interesting thing about that situation I love the most is how it kind of put Alex and Maggie on temporary opposite sides. But then it was a situation where I was like, oh, thanks, babe, for like, it's like, I don't appreciate the fact that you kind of like arrested one of my friends behind my back, babe. And she's like, babe, I can't help it. Like, the fact is, I don't come to your job telling you what to do. Why should I have to explain my job to you? But it's like, even with that was all said and done, I don't know, it was still cute though. It's just like, hey, even though we're on opposite sides, I still love you. I love you too. It's just like, stop being damn and adorable. It's like one side you got heartbreak, on the other side you got another relationship still going strong. I mean, technically I have two sides of heartbreak. I mean, it seems like Win and Lyra are good because she's like willing to leave, but she's like, Win's like, no, you don't have to stay. She's like, don't you hate me? He's like, no, I could never hate you. So I am curious to see if she decides to stay, and maybe her and Win can make things work. Because we do have, like I brought up earlier, Win was more forgiving because it's like, yeah, she used me and everything, but she had a good reason for it. She lied, manipulated, sure, but it's all for the sake of her brother. Like, and he basically, because obviously he's been out of the loop for the whole thing, so he doesn't know about Mon-El's situation, which I'm very interested to see him find out about Mon-El's situation. Like, whoa, wait a minute. You're a prince? I didn't know I was chilling with royalty. Why didn't you tell me, dude? That's amazing. Oh, that's why Kara's pissed at you. Right. But kind of explaining, like, obviously Mon-El has his reasons for it. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, part of me is like, I completely understand why Kara, is mad, because the fact is he lied about something so big and important. To me, I never really thought of it like, I thought like, oh, she'd be pissed that you lied about it, but I didn't understand the weight of what it meant, once again, like to have the crown, in particular being a prince of Daxam. So, I am very, like I said, I'm sure like things with the Daxamites is not done. I'm sure they're not going to just go back home. I'm sure they're going to stay nearby because they're going to try and convince Mon-El to stay here on Earth. We just kind of have to wait to see how that all goes. Especially it's going to probably not pop up until next week's episode, because this episode kind of adds a catalyst for the kind of crossover that's happening in Flash's episode tomorrow, where we have basically some criminal dude. Because I was wondering, like, obviously the duet, like, yeah, I think that's actually the name of the episode. That I knew that whole crossover thing. I was like, oh, so like, how's this happening? It's like, because I try to avoid looking at it too much because I want to go in blind. But basically, it seems like I was like, oh, is this going to be like another Mix situation? Is he back or something and he's causing trouble? It's like, no, apparently it's just some other dude. He's like a pretty big criminal that John was like, yeah, we finally caught a pretty big catch here. And he does something to Kara and makes her pass out. And he ends up, because I even love the fact is that Win is like, yo, me and this Cisco dude would totally get along so well, except for the fact is obviously we live on different Earths. That's the thing, because it's like got the tech and everything. And basically, the guy takes the tech and opens up a wormhole because he's like, oh, I got to track down the fastest man alive. And it's like, for what? What is this all about? And like whatever he did to Kara, I thought it was going to be kind of like a love situation where it's like he's going to force her to fall in love with him or something. But it seems like it might be kind of like a Wizard of Oz situation of like, oh, Dorothy, and wakes up and is like, oh, but it was a dream and you were all there. It seems like that might be what this is alluding to, because obviously we see her kind of waking up. It's like, oh, it's time for you to go on stage. So very interested to see what goes down in the duet tomorrow, but also very interested to see where Supergirl just takes all this stuff going forward, next week. So just overall a very, very good episode. So I'm very excited. That fact is that the whole Daxam secret is out, like him being like Mon-El being a prince and everything. I wish I thought of that sooner when it was a couple episodes back that I came up with that thought. I was like, oh, he's got to be a prince, and then just stuff afterwards kept alluding to him being a prince, especially it got cemented in my mind definitely when that they literally mentioned him in the episode. I can't remember their name now. The aliens that attacked during the crossover. I'm going to end up remembering once I stop recording, but nevertheless, I'm not going to spend the time to sit here and think about it. When he bowed to him, I was like, didn't cement in my mind. I was just like, I'm so glad I got that right. I'm sure a lot of people saw that coming from a mile away, but still, that's kind of my problem. I was like, yeah, I guessed it right. So, yay me. I have to congratulate myself on small victories and stuff like that, So, I'm just rambling on, so I do apologize. So, that's really all I want to talk about in this episode, guys. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.